Ready, so we're going to get ready for our board meeting. Good morning, everyone. We are at the special work session meeting, January 25th, 2022, and we're going to open up the meeting at this point in time, and I want everyone please to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I had a little accident, I'll start out saying, I had a little accident yesterday and had to go to the emergency room last night, and I cannot stand on my leg at all. So we didn't have time to get a little wheelchair for me, but the doctor said it's going to take a little while to recover this morning. So I am in a different chair. Just wanted everyone to know. Miss Richardson's not here, is she? She must have went into the bathroom, possibly? Okay. Well, then I don't want her to miss out on any of the board meeting conversation, so we'll wait patiently for her to get back.
Dr. Mills,
Yes.
can I ask you, could you please get closer to the mic? I'm having trouble hearing.
Yes. I sound so loud to me over here, but okay. All right. We're going to have some items for discussion that's on our agenda. And Mr. Gent, would you please open us up with that when Ms. Richardson comes back in?
Okay, good morning, everybody. What today might be more like a kind of a, there's no formal presentations from staff today. This is more of a almost kind of like a retreat for the board. It's not really a retreat. We didn't advertise it that way, but a couple of items that the board has brought up in the past to discuss. Number one was at the November 9th reorg meeting. There was conversation regarding committee assignments. Secondly, we want to talk about, everyone has looked at the ethics, and some board members expressed an interest to talk about the board meetings themselves, looking at our policy to see if there was any adjustments that might needed to be made, and then open it up to any other general topics that the board would have to discuss with each other. With the first item, Sean Boyle is here from Children's Service Council, and he had wanted an opportunity just to speak to the board regarding Children's Service Council, the makeup of the committees that are there, and I know that it's a government, the governor does some appointments and some of the protocols that they have with his staff. So with the board's permission, just ask Sean to come up for a minute or two to kind of give an overview.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. Wanted to speak might be an exaggeration, but I'm here to speak. Real quick, just Children's Services Council. I think I was asked to speak about the board and the makeup. So we are a 10-member board, and the board makeup is comprised of 5 people by their position and 5 governor appointees. So by position, it is the juvenile judge, which typically rotates about every 2 years. Because when new judges come along, the juvenile judge is generally the low totem pole for the judges. The judge, Department of Children and Families supervisor, which is currently Amy Gregory, a county commission, which is currently and also the chair currently of the Children's Services Council, Linda Bartz, a school board member, which currently is Debbie Hawley, who serves as, I believe, the secretary for the board, and then the superintendent of schools. And those are the 5 by position, and then there's 5 governor appointees, and when the governor makes an appointment, they serve generally a 4-year term, and then they have to be renewed. And then outside of that, we have 3 officer positions. We recently revamped our bylaws so that the positions are 2-year terms with 1 renewable, up to 1 more renewable term. So the most anybody can serve in 1 position is up to 4 years, and then they have to sit out at least a year before they can reapply or be considered for nomination again. Do you want me to talk more than that? I can talk about what we do at the Children's Service. I will emphasize just, and this is so important, you know, outside of the school district by far sees the most children each year, right? Over 40,000 students enrolled. the importance of having good school board representation, both as a school board and the superintendent, because outside of the school board, the entity that sees the most children is the Children's Services Council. And so, you know, our efforts together are very much linked together. What happens in the classroom impacts what happens outside the classroom and vice versa.
And you asked the board members that is it the governor chosen board members? Are they also 2 years where you want them to serve at least
So
2 years?
the
or how does that-
process with the governor, and it's really an odd situation because everybody always asks, the Children's Services Council cannot control its board at all. The county commission advertises when we have an opening, when a term is expired, they advertise the position. It's the county's commission to select, based upon who applies, 3 representatives for each opening. And then the governor chooses from those 3, 1 appointment for a term. Those terms are 4 years generally. But again, the Children's Services Council, we are not allowed to get involved in that process. That's a county commission process. And then as far as who gets appointed to our board is based on position and or what you're discussing. Either the county commission decides which commissioner or the school board decides which school board member.
Can you clarify the 2 years? You mentioned something about 2 years.
Yeah, the 2-year terms are for officers of the Children's Services Council. And we rewrote our bylaws for continuity's sake. You know, we had a longtime chair who was, you know, and she served well, was chair for over 16 years. The board wanted to have that discussion. They felt that a 1-year term wasn't enough time for a member to kind of get up to speed and kind of really, for lack of a better word, own that responsibility. So they, officer positions serve 2 years in those positions.
Okay.
And then it's up to renewal renewal up to another, they can serve 2 consecutive terms, but then after that, they have to stop.
Any questions, board, for Mr. Boyle, because he will have to be leaving after his presentation?
Sean, I know the answer, but I just want to make sure is, you have those 5 positions, they rotate 2 and 3, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Those 5 positions that the governor picks, correct? They rotate 3 and 2, so you have continuity on the board. They don't all get reappointed at one time.
Well, they actually, all but one, they all spread out through 4 years. We have 2 positions that expire at the same time, but they're spread out. The difficulty for us is we have 2 open positions, and those terms have expired for 3 years. We're still waiting for the governor to make an appointment. Our hands are tied. We have to wait for the governor to make the appointment.
Thank you.
But yeah, they're not all 5 come up at once, thank goodness. That would be stressful.
Thank you, Sean. Any more questions for Mr. Boyle at all? Okay. Thank you so much for, did I hear one? Ms. Jennifer?
Just to clarify, it's 2 years, then you take a break, and then you can go back on the board. But it's,
Yeah, and I apologize. Whoever the school board or the county commission says to serve on the Children's Services Council, you know, we accept that, whoever it is. You know, that can be, you know, for 10 years. I'm not advocating, I'm just saying it could be for 10 years. The 2 years is executive positions on the board itself. So we have a secretary, a vice chair, and a chair. When you get nominated and voted in as chair, that's a 2-year term. And then if they want to, the board can reappoint them as chair again for up to another 2 years. But after that, they can't serve as chair or any executive position. They have to take a year off.
And that was just changed.
Yeah, that was, and we also moved, by the way, because we realized that generally our annual meeting took place in October. But some of our positions are determined by elections. So we moved our general meeting where officers get elected to December, so that we make sure that we have, you know, our full board membership.
so therefore then, you can sit on the Children's Services Council for as long as you are nominated or.
Correct.
Yes, no.
So for example, I'm trying to think of the juvenile judge. If he were to stay the judge for 10 years, as long as he's in charge of the juveniles in St. Lucie County, he will sit on our board. Same with the Department of Children and Families, that this, you know, the superintendent, as long as he's the superintendent, he has a seat on our board.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
Sean, how long have you been with us now? How many years?
The Children's Services Council?
Yes.
Since August of 97. Not as the CEO or executive director, but since August of 97.
Well, I just
A
want to
long
say,
time.
I've known you all that time, and you've done an outstanding job, and we're lucky to have you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I clearly started when I was 12. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah. In fact, our organization was already in place when you came on.
Yeah, one of the first people I met on the job was this gentleman right over here. I
Yeah.
remember that, I was green, they're like, go visit programs, and that was the first program I went to visit.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you coming. And I want to, everybody knows my husband. He's here today to assist me because I'm crippled for a little while. So, and he's been a great caregiver yesterday, and today. So at this time, what we want to do is talk about that committee assignment that I've been so concerned about. Um, As I mentioned, we've been around as long as Sean, even before Sean, as an agency with Children's Service Council, and they do a tremendous job in funding organizations, agencies in this community. For us, as a school board, as Sean mentioned, we are the ones who really deal with the children first. And as a school board, I want us to recognize that uh, 2/3 of our children are either Hispanic or Black children. Sean's agency, CSC, deals with a lot of agencies who are ran by minorities as well. And I don't know what we would have done without the funding that they have given through the years. Now, when we were here before they got here, we were willing to do what we were doing without any funding whatsoever. We were working on, we just believed that the help was needed in the community, and we stepped out without any funding whatsoever. But we really needed help, and CSC came to our aid. So I have a special place in my heart for CSC. I'm going to be retiring from Save Our Children this year. So currently, I am not only the co-founder, but I am the site manager. And I'm going to retire because we are getting a little older. There's a time for all things, right, Jack? There's a time to work and there's a time to retire. And we're not retiring from the community because we don't know how to do that, But we are retiring at this time this year from our CSC funding because we're not going to do things as we have always done. And we have some other ideas that we are looking at in continuing our work in the community until we cannot work in the community anymore due to health or what have you. So I'm really concerned about the Children's Service Council Board because they have no minorities and they have as board members and have not had any for over a decade. And I just want us as a school board to do the right thing. We do have the authority to do the right thing with one position. And not just for Children's Service Council, but as I've been thinking about it, I don't know how the other boards are looking out there in the community as well, but we do, and you guys serve on those boards. I don't know if there's, minority representation on those boards, or even if it's needful on the other boards. But I do know here as a school board, it's needful for us to do something different to make sure that we have some representation of a minority on that board. Over a decade is ridiculous not to have other people serve outside of an all-white board of members. So I'm asking this board to really consider the children that we are working with. 2/3 of them are minority. I've been working with that group of children for over 35 years. And this one thing that I know and recognize and understand, that these children need representation up on that level so that they can look up and say, oh, okay, that's normal. It's normal to be on that level. and they will aspire based on what they see. Children they grow by what they see more so than what we say. We could say one thing, but children don't listen too much to what we say. They're looking at what they see. So I'm asking the board, my recommendation here is that the board would, when Debbie is finished with her 2 years, that the board would either rotate each of us in that position, because CSC is the top of, I feel, of all of the boards that we assign committees to, because they work directly with our children. That we rotate every 2 years between all of us, if that's what we want, or we just put a minority person on that board, and make sure that we have some representation in that area. I would be more than happy for all of us to rotate, because then I know it's not going to be another decade before the community sees a minority on CSC. It would be every 2 years. So if the next person would want, and currently right now, and I talked to Attorney Shaddock about it, currently right now, the chairman of the board has basically the sole discretion on who serves on committees, and that is in our policy. So, there's times to change certain things in our policy, and so right now, and I knew this on November, but I didn't want to bring it out open in front of everybody, but I knew this fact in our policy that says the chairman has sole discretion. And I could have, as chairman, because it's in my heart to get a minority on that board so much, I could have went on it and assigned someone else, but I knew it would not be fair to not have Ms. Hawley finish out at least her 2-year term as a board member. So I'm asking the board to consider making changes in that policy. We as a board, I'd like for us to be able to have some input, to be able to say, okay, well, maybe I want to serve on this other committee, and if we need to talk about, I'm looking at Mr. Kelly because I have served on, well, because you're right across from me too, because I've served on not Early Learning Coalition, on the Education Foundation since I became a member of the board. I've served on the Education Foundation for 11 years. Maybe there's someone else here, and I know you mentioned, that you would love to serve on the Education Foundation. Maybe we could rotate at times, and if we want to do that, we could do that across the board. Anyone who wants to serve on another board, that they want to serve on that board, that we give way to that person to be able to have that opportunity to serve. And if it's just 2 years, we do 2 years, or whatever we want to say in that area. Education Foundation does have several minorities on their board. So it's not like, I would be stepping down and there would be no one to represent that field. We have several people that serve on the Education Board. I love the Education Foundation, but I want to do what is fair for all of our children and for our community. So board members, I open up at this time any comments that you may have of discussion on this.
I just believe in continuity. I like continuity. At the same time, I understand the difference and the need of change. But if you look at the boards that I sit on, they're predominantly all white, I guess. I mean, the taxing authority board that I sit on, I've sat on the board for 14, 15 years, and there's not one minority that represents our community. But if you put someone on there that doesn't understand tax abatement, doesn't understand taxes and stuff, you do the community a disjustice. So, I mean, 14 or 15 years of knowledge goes a long way. I know more than the attorney sometimes. Me and Mrs. Hutchinson. So, when you look at people that have been part of boards that they bring more to the table than what people know. And continuity is massively huge because you see the turnover in the community. We've had 3 community people. And I say that because you say community people, have we pushed African Americans to apply to the county commission chamber for that position on the capital services board or capital services? That's the youth program I was involved in college. Children's Services Council.
Okay. Yes, we have. I talked with Sean, and there's been a few community people that they have put before the governor to ask the governor if he would allow them to serve as a board member, and they don't hear it back from the governor. And when they do hear back from me, he automatically puts a white Republican, is what I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just being out front. We've got to talk. We got to let all the elephants out the room. If we're gonna move forward in this.
I think you just got to find a Republican then.
Yeah. And the other thing.
I mean, I think that's whoever is always in office is, whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, they're going to nominate.
And I don't know if they've done that. Maybe they've put a Republican, a black Republican before them. I don't know.
I don't know
I'm just
either.
saying that who ends up on the board
Yeah.
and serves the board, that's who it is.
Yeah.
It's white, it's Republican.
And I can guarantee if you look at the fire board, whoever's on the fire board is going to be a Republican. Is that, I mean, whoever governor is, Jack can back me up. The governor has their appointee on the fire board, and whether black or white, they always vote their party line.
Well, that's why I've even brought up Jennifer Richardson, because at the time, I get funding from Children's Service Council. I get a salary from them. So that's a conflict of interest. So that is why I said Jennifer Richardson, and
Well,
she's,
Oh, I understand. And that was at the meeting on that Thursday or that November. That's why I didn't want to say anything in public, because I realized that you did receive funding, and I didn't want to say, hey, Dr. Mills, this is unethical. We can't do this. I just wanted to discuss this at a later date. But at the same time, to nominate a very new board member on a crucial board.
I get that. I get what you're saying, and I agree with you totally.
So, I mean,
And the continuity part about it is important too. And the experience of one, because the less experience one has, the more of a learning curve it is. So I get what you're saying there. I am willing to be that next person now to serve, and I have a whole lot of experience.
Oh, yeah.
in that area.
Well, before
So I'm able to jump right in and get right with,
So-
I know how CSC board works because they funded my agency for over 30 years. So I have the utmost experience to be able to serve on that board. And then there's times when you put somebody on the board, they may not have ever served. When I came on as a school board member, I'm so grateful that it was recommended for me to serve on Education Foundation, and that I took that recommendation, and served. I'm so thankful I did, because I absolutely love this Education Foundation. I mean, really, I'm a sold out board member for them and what they do. And but I didn't have experience with them, but I had experience with children. So.
Oh,
yeah,
I
get it.
100% agree. But some of these boards, Education Foundation, I don't want to diminish them, but you can show up or not show up. The board I go to, I have to show up. If I don't show up, they don't meet. So this Thursday, when I show up at 9 o'clock, if I leave the door, that meeting shuts because the quorum shuts down. Mr. Boyle needs these people to show up. I mean, because it's important, because he has to run a business. How much is your budget? 12 million? $12 million business. And he needs quorum. He needs your approval for grants and stuff. So these are things that you have to have,
Yes.
And I understand now the situation is different. But my other question is, no, you can't. I was going to say, could we ask Mrs. Richardson to go to the county commission? But we can't have that because we can't have 2 school board members on the same board. Never mind. That's a bad idea.
Well, I'm not even recommending Ms. Richardson
No,
right
I was
now
just
to
saying
be,
we could probably ask the county commission because Mrs. Richardson is different party affiliation, that we could work it that way, but we can't have two school board members on the same chair,
Right,
community,
exactly.
because it's a voting.
And I wanted to
sunshine.
say, Troy, I would never want to serve on the board you serve on now.
Oh, I know,
So
nobody
you
does.
would
That's
never
why I'm
have,
the
you
only
would,
one that gets to
you
do
wouldn't
it.
have to rotate us on that one. There's certain boards that we're not interested in, so.
Those would be the ones
You
I
can
sit
have
on.
that one. Any more comments? Discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to say about continuity, that it has its place, but if you don't get an opportunity to at least learn or be put in the seat, then there won't be any continuity, because that's where it starts. So, and I understand how important these boards are, but by the same token, I think that we underestimate intelligence, common sense, when we say that, we have to have the experience, because sometimes the common sense and the intelligence makes up for the experience. And if you are committed and you are passionate about whatever the subject matter is, you will learn, and you will learn it very fast. So there is also, even though there's that learning curve, it depends on the person as to whether or not or how fast they will learn the position. But I don't think we should just, a continuity. And I get continuity. I'm there because it takes away that time, that learning time. But I think that should not be a hindrance or something that we look at and say, well, no, I'm not going to, she can't do this or he can't do this because they have no experience.
No, I 100% agree. I think we should be rotating off, but continuity in my terms is a 4-year term. Because what happens is we have a superintendent going off, and we had another school board member going off the thing. And the reality of it is he's got a 10-member board, but 5 or 6 of them are the key players that you call and get most of your advice from. So, I mean, the continuity is, I don't want to say longevity, but the continuity is 4 years, and then maybe rotating off. 2 years is not continuity.
Yeah, but here's the thing about the 2-year versus the 4 years. It's been over 10 years that there has not been a minority on that board. That bothers me, Troy. That really bothers me because I am a minority. And so I see out of a minority eyes. And to know that things are being done fairly really helps me. We just went through a master board. We just went through a master board training. Now we have to put some stuff into work. And even though, I would be, if there was others serving on CSC that was a minority, I'd be fine. And that's why I recommended Jennifer Richardson, because I couldn't recommend myself at the time. But I think it's just an urgent matter. It may not be an urgent matter in some other eyes than it may be. But for me, it's urgent that we do something different. And Debbie's, her term is 2 years in December. So that kind of works very well for November when we do our committee. And this is it says that the chairman can make that decision, But I like to kind of change that, I like to change that policy with us, that if we know we need to put someone else or someone else is interested even, that we're able to move out of the way and let that person experience it. And then maybe we could do 4 years of that individual. But I think this is an urgent case right now with CSC. I know the people out there that are getting the funding. I know the majority of all of the, personally, the agencies that's getting the funding, the majority of them. And I know the children that they are working with.
So
in
is
the
there a
community.
problem that we should be aware of? Is there an issue?
Yeah, the problem is what I'm stating now. People feel that there has not been any minority representation on CSC for a long time. And they're looking at it as something is wrong here. And we need some representation. And that's how other people of other colors and other races and cultures feel. That we feel that we should have a place in some of these big decisions. And I understand that the continuity, I do get that, if we wanted to do every 4-year thing. But I think that this is an urgent time that we need to go ahead and get started, not wait another 3 years type thing to do it. So that's why I'm bringing it to the forefront. And not just for CSC, I want to be clear. I'm willing to move out the way not early learning. I like early learning. I just started with them, so they're on my mind. But with the Education Foundation and allow Mr. Kelly, because I know that he really loves that organization as well, and have done a lot to help them as well. So, just to rotate. So I want something that's changed in that policy, we can rotate. If someone else is interested after so many years of that person serving. As Sean said, there was someone, one of our board members served for 16 years. That gives no one else even a chance to serve on that very vital committee in this community.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I feel like I'm the target
Oh, I
here
don't wanna
today.
do that.
And maybe you don't intend that, but that's how it feels. And what I'm hearing you say is that because my skin is white, I can't represent minority or Black children.
No, you can do that very well.
I'm expressing what I'm feeling
Mhm.
right now. Everyone else on Children's Services Council has a 4-year term. The 2-year term is for an officership. So what you're proposing changes what the Children's Services Council board has in place. It would take me out of another 2 years to serve on that. And I'm hearing that the only reason you would want that to happen is because there's not a minority on that board, and yet school board is not the only opportunity for a minority to serve on that board. So I'm feeling very singled out, and as if my work on that board is not appropriate or appreciated. And I need everyone here to know, and I think everyone does, that when I commit to something, I give it 200%. And like you, I have been an advocate in this community for over 35 years. This is my home, 4th generation here, and I have represented children of all colors, of all stages, of all disabilities. So I just wanted to voice that I feel very singled out, as well as Children's Services Council, we're disrupting their schedule.
Yes, Ms. Holly, and this is why I mentioned Education Foundation, because I understand that if I'm asking that from you, and I know we have a board member that would like to serve in a position I'm in, that I'm willing to also move out the way. It is not my intentions at all to feel as if you're not qualified or because you're white. My intentions, and you have to look out of my eyes, is that there are none minorities on that board. And you mentioned that there's opportunities for other people, but other people have not stepped in to produce that opportunity. So with us as a school district, I want us to do what I believe is the right thing at this time. Has nothing to do with you serving on that board. I know your background. I know you're qualified. Please don't take what I'm saying wrong or that I'm personally attacking you. It's the issue that I'm dealing with right now.
We'll probably have to agree to disagree
Okay.
on that.
Yes, ma'am.
But the other point I want to make is, as Troy said, the committee he serves on, nobody wants to serve on. But if we're going to make this our policy, if we're going to change our policy for rotation, then there can't be committees that somebody gets stuck with because nobody else wants to serve on them. We can't pick and choose, in other words. So if we have a policy, well, it's the reality. Just because nobody wants it, then he's stuck with it. Children's
But
Services
what he
Council
also
happens
said
to
was
be
it was a
one.
strong learning curve in that area.
Indeed,
So,
but as Mrs.
yeah.
Richardson said, give somebody a chance to learn
Yes,
it.
and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that all the way across the board. I mentioned that as I was speaking. I'm fine with all the way across the board rotating, unless a person doesn't. Now, I'm not fine with forcing someone to
Right.
serve, but if someone is willing to serve, that we
Well,
rotate that
Part of our
position.
responsibility as responsible board members is to serve on those committees, and not just in name, but to actually go to the meetings, to be there.
Yes,
Because if we're not at the table, then our voice is not heard.
that's true.
And
but-
I
yeah.
know that there are occasions, multiple occasions, when people do not attend the committees that they're appointed to.
Yes. Now,
So-
that's not my case, because I'm like you. If I get on a committee, I'm going to serve on that committee. I'm
I'm
going to
not-
be there.
I'm
So,
not
but
singling
yeah.
anyone out, I'm just saying that I
Yeah.
know, because people have said to me, how can we get somebody else on our committee? When
Because
I was
they're not
chair.
showing that
or
you're-
that.
Mhm.
So I firmly believe if we're going to make this our policy, and, that will require a recommendation from here to go to policy committee before it can be changed, but that it should mean all. And I'm also against the thought of disrupting a Children's Services Council person that is on the board, serving in an officer position, and taking 2 of those years away from that person when she has a 4-year term.
And again, the issue is the issue with me and the urgency that I see and that the minority community sees, that we have somebody that is a minority on that board. And I want us to look like, as a school district, that we are not doing any type of discrimination, that we have the opportunity where we can fix something or make something better, that we do it, and that
But
there's
again,
no
that
room
goes
for
back to-
discriminating.
What I bring to this Children's Services Council is being negated because of my skin color.
Well, now you feel the way we feel a lot of
Mhm.
times as minorities
Absolutely.
because of our skin color.
Absolutely.
And I think it's good
I
to
have great
be able to
empathy for that.
experience something like that because you see it out of your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good that we can have these conversations. That's where we have diversity training and these other trainings that we have that is supposed to keep things fair and done and see out of other people's eyes. So I understand the feeling because I've been there a lot, but I
I'm
want,
not
and
negating
sometimes
that at
we
all.
feel that way and it's not really the situation, but you get your, kind of feel.
Well, I think we also have to look at fairness to all of the committees that we serve on. If there is a person from our board serving on a committee and it's understood that it's a 4-year term, or that person then has the ability to try to be an officer on that, which brings an even greater voice to a board. So we, in essence, would be going against the bylaws and procedures that Children's Services Council has in place.
And that's not what I heard Mr. Sean say when he came up. I heard him say that 2 years, that they would like at least 2 years for somebody to serve
As an
And-
officer.
as a board, not a regular board
No,
member.
as an officer. Our officer terms are for 2 years.
Mhm.
You can get another 2 years after that, and then you cannot be an officer in that position for a year.
And what about the board member?
Board members serve 4-year terms. It comes like the governor does, he appoints for 4 years.
Mr. Sean, can you come, since you're still here, can you clarify that for us, please? You should have got out while you could.
So, what's the question? The governor appointments are for 4 years. The other 5 positions, the ones by position in the community, there is no limit on their terms. It's whatever the county commission, whatever the school board, whoever's in those positions. The executive positions, the elected positions serve 2 years and can be renewed up to another 2 years, pending obviously the vote of the board.
So in our case, just to make sure it's clarified for our case, it would be for you, are you saying that it's a 2-year term or 4-year term?
I'm
As
saying
far as
that,
No, I'm talking
Oh,
Mr. Sean.
So for the school board, it's what the school board decides.
Yeah, because the person could stay on as
There-
long as forever.
Right, we've had that. We currently changed our bylaws so that no executive committee member can serve as long as forever. I'm making that up, but, so we put a 4-year cap on it,
So.
because we wanted to, avoid that.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to avoid today, the same thing you guys are trying to avoid in a different manner.
Right.
That's all I'm doing, I'm trying to change the same way that you guys felt once that committee member was gone, 16 years, you guys got together, you said, we got to do something about this should not be done any longer. Your board, not you so much, but the board.
Right.
And so change was made. And so today I'm just dealing with my board here and saying change needs to be made. And so,
Madam Chair,
whether it be
one
2
point
years or
of
4 years,
clarity.
I just think 4 years is way too long before the community sees another minority on that board.
Point of clarity, though, I'm speaking in my position as Secretary of Children's Services Council. I'm in my second year in that term, and I am eligible for another 2 years in that. That would be the 4 years.
If you say, yeah.
Right. Correct, Sean?
Correct, yes. Again, at the December meeting, that's when we elect officers. I'm just going to
So,
recognize
is there-
something. I know this is pretty obvious. I'm looking at Troy's face. You have to remember, I have 2 bosses here, potentially a potential third. So I'm just answering questions. I don't feel it's my place to offer an opinion.
Okay, all right.
Just being
You should have
honest.
left when you had time. Okay, thank you, Mr. Sean. You go back to your seat. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Thanks
That's
for that
right.
clarification.
That's right. So at this time, is there any more discussion before a motion is made?
As it stands right now, my understanding is that it's 2 years, and then if we want to, or if you want to, then another 2 years. But it's not consecutively 4-year term. It's 2 years, 2 years, you take a break, and then you can come back again for another 2 years as a director or
CSC wants their board members, I was talking, Mr. Ingersoll, hold back a second. CSC would like for their board members to remain on the board at least for 2 years. That is
Correct.
what I got, to keep it
Yes.
simple. That's what I got from Mr. Sean when I talked
Right.
with him.
Let's leave the microphones on. Okay. Sure. That is not what he said. He said 5 people serve on the board. That is a board. And then you have officers. Of those 5 people, you have like a secretary, a vice president, and a president. These people have 2-year services,
that's what I said.
not the whole board. No, because you said 2 years.
Okay, well, I'm
Okay.
talking about the.
Because there's a board and there's this executive.
Okay, let's
staff.
talk about the board.
Okay,
The board,
The
which
board.
is 2 years.
no, the board is,
It could be 20 years. It could be, they could stay, it's
Okay,
up to us.
sorry, okay.
Okay, Ms.
Mrs.
Richardson.
Hawley, what position do you hold? You're the secretary. You're a director?
There's a secretary.
As director, so we're talking
Yes.
about director.
so she's on the board,
Oh,
but
she's
she
on-
has a position, the top 3. So she
Okay,
has
so
one
we're
of those
talking about
positions.
Mrs. Hawley's position.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That's
so
totally different than the board.
whatever, a director, can I say director? Okay, so she's a director, so it's 2 years, and she can serve another 2 years, and then she has to take a year break, and then it starts over again, 2 years and 2 years. But it caps at 4 years, is that correct?
Not not the director, but the executive. She's also secretary. So her secretary position is the one where she serves for 2 years, and then she could serve another 2 years. And that's only the secretary. The director, the board of director position, she's a board, that's like a board member of the board, is the board of directors. That position, she could serve as long as she wants to at this time, unless we change that and say, we want it to be
I got
rotated
that.
for
But
2
I
years.
was
That's
talking
the
about the 2
confusion.
years, just the 2 years and the 2 years break,
Yes,
2 years.
we
Okay,
can
so I
make
was
that
talking-
decision
Okay,
as a board.
so that's what I'm saying, though, that 2 year, it's basically 2 years. And if we want, or she wants, if she goes another 2 years,
If-
but it's not a 4-year term.
If we
It's 2
change the
years
policy.
And 2 years.
Yeah,
That's what I'm getting at, and then a 1-year break. So Mrs. Hawley has done, or 2 years, or it's going to, at the end of the 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, then take that break and put a minority in that, in that.
yes, I'm saying
Rather
that,
than to continue it to a 4-year.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. I'm just
exactly, because
trying
that
to-
would be 5 years, that would be 5 years
Okay.
that she would have served, or
Right.
6 years.
Right, but as a board member, you can sit on the board for as long as you want to,
Yeah,
whatever the school board says.
whatever we say
That's
for
Okay,
them.
but it could be whenever. Or does it cap at 4 years?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
It could
so it's
become-
as for as long as you want to. So those are two different considerations
Mhm.
right there, you know? But because she is a director, had she not been a director, it could be any amount of time.
No, as a director, it could
I
be as.
mean, as a
yeah.
board member, it could be any amount of time.
And that's what happened, because
Okay.
that's, right now, our policy is saying, as long as you want to stay on that board, you can stay.
Exactly.
That's what our policy is saying
Right.
now.
And I just wanted to say about being, sometimes when I personally look at, we sit on the boards and we do a good job for everybody. But people looking on the outside, people outside looking in, when it's different when you see, I want to say your people, when you see somebody like you, when you see somebody like you in a position or whatever, it like Dr. Mill says, there is a level of motivation, there's a level of empowerment, and I think it even comes with a level of trust, that you're trusting that you are being represented in this area or in whatever it is that board that you're sitting on. You have that representation, no matter how fine a person you are, no matter what your character is, you are looking to see, when you see somebody like you, it just changes the dynamics, So I think it is important that we have somebody that is African American, Black, I don't know what you want to say, how you want to describe it, on the board. I think it's very important at this time. And I think that we should have somebody of that descent or another ethnic descent on the board. I think that's very important.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think I covered the color issue.
And then even the trust among us as board members. We went through that master training. It was an excellent training. That building that trust among us as board members. We need to all feel like things are being done in a way that's fair and equal. Everybody needs to feel that. Every human being should feel that, and feel like they are represented, as Ms. Richardson said. And this is the way minorities see it and have seen it, because of, we haven't always had that fairness here in America. So, we're always trying to build that trust where we can do things in a manner that we know we're looking out for the whole picture, and that builds our trust for one another. So with that being said, if there's no more comments, Mr. Kelly, have you said anything, or would you like to speak?
I haven't had a chance, and I do have a lot I want to say to you all. And I never write anything down or read from a script, so I hope I can remember, because a lot of the things I want to say to you are important. I know that during our classes that we had with the master board classes we had, which were great, I mentioned this to you before during that class, that one of the most important things when we appoint anybody to any board, it should be the person that's best qualified to represent the school board. I think that goes without saying. We want that person to have good judgment. And you all remember I told you, how do you get good judgment? You get good judgment from experience. Okay? How do you get experience? You get experience from making mistakes. I've made more mistakes than all of you together because I'm so much older. I'm the oldest guy in the building. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't take new things and incorporate them all the time if I have a new member that has a good idea. You got to put that in your head and you got to think about the idea, okay? This is just from my heart and genuine. Bye, Sean. I don't blame you for wanting to leave. When I ran for office, it was at my age, it was a very hard decision to make. And you know, I called you all. I called you all up and spoke to you for quite a while, Debbie and Donna, and you called me back. You were great, and we talked anyways. But everybody's got their expertise, and everybody's got a thing about them. And after speaking to you all, I thought you were all genuine, and you all gave me a good perspective. And speaking to Mr. Gent, and if I didn't feel that way, I never would have ran for office because I don't want to work with anyone. And this guy over here hits it on the head all the time if I can't trust him. Okay, and I always think the best person for the job is the one that we consider the best person that's going to represent us, no matter what. No matter what. Having said that, you still have to take these ideas, these new ideas that come along. I've stole from you, and I'll steal from him. Anything that's really good, I'll steal from Jennifer, from anyone, if I think something's good. I told you before, when I spoke to you the first time that we had a long time, you talked to me about educating the entire child, right? Well, I have a problem with charter schools, and I've taken your example, and I've used that against people that talk to me about charter schools because I don't feel they educate the entire child. And it's something that I got good from you, from your experiences. I'm sure you have. You talked about the fire board, about how we have a government-appointed guy. To appoint the wrong person to a board is very, very bad. And it goes upon the elected officials, the people, the board themselves. That's their problem, okay? We had a problem on the fire board that we corrected. The governor appoints a person to the fire board. I was on the fire board for many, many years. I think I was chairman twice. And the governor's appointed person, who naturally went with, whether it was a Democrat or Republican, which is not a great thing. Maybe it is for the party, but you know, right now I'm. Yeah, that's the way it was. But we would allow the chairman to be in rotation for chairmanship. We would allow, the appointee, governor's appointed to be the chairman. They would go in rotation. I don't think it was my second year we had an appointee. I'm not meant knowing no names, and it's way back in history. And it was a terrible, terrible thing. We decided, the board took a very, very courageous stand and said, no more. The governor's appointee cannot be a chairman of this fire board. Stopped it, that was it. Because we had a bad experience. Just because it's an appointee doesn't mean he's going to be the best person for the job. You folks appointed me, and I asked to be an appointee for the TPO. And I'm not putting anybody down, but I don't think anybody here other than me would know what the TPO actually really does in any of the acronyms or the arguments and how important the TPO is, okay? But I've spent so many years on the TPO, you put me in. This year, it was my turn. I should have been the chairman this year in rotation, okay? I took it upon myself and said, I haven't been here for 6 years. I don't know anything about what's going on with Midway Road or who we're hiring the new construction people. I'm not the guy. I think it should be Stephanie Morgan. She's been here for 4 or 5 years now, and we put her in. It was the right thing to do. I do not have the new, but I got the history, and history is everything with government. And Mr. Gent knows this. He's got the history from everywhere, and the bad things that happened to him, his experiences, mistakes, he brings here, and he did an excellent job. He knew what was going to work for us and what wasn't going to work most of the time, and thank God he had the support of the board. I hope you understand where I'm going with this. The best person for the job is the person that has that experience and has good judgment, and it's up to us to figure that out. Now, I know Mr. Ingersoll, he's plugged in, he's concerned citizens, he knows what's going on and how people feel, especially in the North County. Yourself and Debbie and I have worked with children forever. With her with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, me with the beginning of the Boys and Girls Club, all your mentoring, everything that you do, okay? We're in with the kids. So we're probably good people to be appointed to things like that, okay? And I want to mention right now, and I'll be very, very careful, but we as a board, we're on TV. We're on TV right now, and people see us. We have to be very careful of everything that we say, all the words that we use all the time. If we put out information, if one of us says something that's not accurate, and we put out information, people hear it. And they might not be there 10 minutes later when Molly corrects us and tells us exactly what it is about, just like Troy was trying to get across his and Jennifer what was going on with that board. People listen and they get misinformation and they believe it. Right here now, I'm going to talk to you. I'm taking your side and Debbie's side. When you said that you didn't mean anything like the way Debbie took it, that you didn't mean that could be what you said about when we were talking about having a minority on the Children's Services Council and a 2-year position versus 4 and all that. I know what you meant. I know you, and I know that you didn't mean it in that sense at all. But people heard it. Donna, people heard it. And I'm calling you by your first names because that's how I feel. People heard it, and they took it the way she said. And I had it said back to me that way. They did to you. They misinterpreted what you said. They took it a different way. So what she's saying, and she has feelings that way, understand that I know what you said. I was there, and I know who you are and how you think and everything else. I don't take it that way, but people did. They hear misinformation, and they just take it wrong.
And
It
Mr.
happens.
Kelly, just for me to address that, how people see things.
Well, can I
It's
finish,
based-
because I'll
go ahead.
forget my point. I'm an
Yes,
old
yes,
man,
sir.
I'll forget
I'll write
it.
it
I'll
down.
forget it,
I'll write it
But
down.
it's what people think, it's how they interpret it, and sometimes, I mean, I'm still suffering now from making the remark about wasted space. Right, Troy? And you hooked me, I blame it on you. I blame a lot of things on you, but that comes back to Anya. I never should have said anything. You have to be so careful what you say and how it's interpreted. So I can understand how Debbie feels, and I understand where you're coming from, though. No bad intentions at all, okay? To appoint somebody to a Children's Services Council is so important to us, especially it's integral with us and our money, and about how we're going to be going for referendum pretty soon, which should be the highlight on our board, to appoint somebody that's brand new to that position. And I'm going back to Mrs. Richardson, okay? What I said to you at the beginning here about experience and about good judgment, you need to have that. You need to have that history and everything else. And because I'm an old man and I'm talking to you, doesn't mean that you don't have good ideas. And I recognize that you have passion, and I know that you mean well, Mrs. Richardson. But Mrs. Richardson, I could not support you to be in that position, or could I, and I'm talking to you very bluntly, right to you, or could I support you to be chairman, vice chairman of the board because of the first year, but also because, Mrs. Richardson, you did not attend, and I am saying something from my heart, you did not attend any of our master board meetings, which for me gave me a tremendous insight into school board because this is my first year. And we really missed you not being there. And not having that experience went towards my vote of how I would vote for you or not. And I think you'd make an excellent person to go on that board, but not right now. Not until you have a little bit more experience and we make some more mistakes, because I'm still new on this board. I might be making a mistake right now. I don't know. We'll find out. But I just want you to know that I think you missed a great chance to get in with the board and be part of the family here by not being at those master board meetings and a few other things that I think you missed. And I'm just being frank with you. I'm putting it right out there. Again, I think you have passion. I think you're a smart lady. There's no doubt about that. And I actually feel the need sometimes to protect you. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm old, but I do not look at you in a defamatory way in any way. I'm just being really honest with you. So guys, I think the best person for any job we have is the person that has that has the best insight into the board that we're going to put them on. I don't care what color they are. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, or whatever. It's the best person that should be that. And having said that, I'll finish by saying I agree. I like continuity. City council, 2-year terms. We had 2-year terms 20 years ago. Just like the fire board, we got rid of it. When you get appointed 2 years or you get elected 2 years on any board, it takes you 1.5 years to learn the damn job. It takes at least that, Mrs. Richardson, it does. That's how long it takes. So we made them 4-year terms for the continuity, and it worked out great, and we kept it that way. And we had to have the gumption to do that, and we had to put it out for referendum. So continuity is very, very important. However, I do not have a problem with rotating like you suggested. So I kind of agree with you in both of you. I don't have a problem with rotating, but it has to be the best person and the one that's going to represent us and do us the best job. Having said that, I hope I didn't make too many mistakes, but that's how I feel about the whole thing. And I love our board. And again, I vetted everybody on here, and I still trust you all. And I
And
just want everybody to be happy.
Mr. Kelly, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate everyone's comments. You know, I like to take it in and try to be open to hear everyone, you know, and then weigh. That's the way I do things, you know. I'm always analyzing. I drive my husband crazy with, okay, let's weigh this thing and make sure. And my daughter's into law as well, so I think she might have got a little of that from me, where we are looking at being open enough to see the whole thing, you know, to have eyes to see what's really going on here. And I appreciate what you just said. I dropped down a couple of little things that I wanted to respond to. The one thing about how people think, that's important. We've got people out there that's thinking different ways. We're in the situation we're in now as a country, which is not good because of the different mindsets. But we have to be able to also take what is true in those mindsets as to the best of our ability and weigh, you know. So our people are thinking not just your way or I'm going to call you Sister Holly, my sister over there, that or just thinking your way that you were feeling, you know. But they're thinking my way, they're thinking Ms. Jennifer way, you know. Those that people of color is thinking a certain way too. And they're saying, this is not right. This is not fair. We need to see representation on that level. And so regardless of what everybody else is thinking, let's weigh what is true and right and try to do to the best of our ability that. Educate every child. Educate, you said you took something from me, and that was that we need to educate the entire child. And that is so true. We have to educate them in that self-esteem, not just academics. We have to educate them health-wise, you know, social-wise. Working with so many children for so many years, I had to teach children how to be social. So many of the kids that I work with, how to be able to not just see it one way, but be open, and how to greet people, and how to shake hands, and how to, you know, come in a room as much as just say hello, you know, or thank you, or please. So the whole child, the mental, the emotional, the physical, the educational, that whole child needs to be addressed. And so thank you for spreading and if it's not, if something's missing, there's going to be a problem later on in life if they're not educated in that area. So I get that. Now, does anybody else want to say anything else? Because we can move on and on without passionate talk here.
Have a couple of things I'd like to bring up too along these lines, that I somewhat do feel like Ms. Hawley has been targeted, whether intentional or unintentional, because I look at the board that she's on. Let me look at our board first. Look at St. Lucie County School Board. I look at the other boards that we're on, and I look at some of the boards that we represent that have, I don't want to say greater importance, because there's not a greater importance between Children's Services Council or the FSBA, the Florida School Boards Association that we have. And I've had the opportunity to serve on that board numerous times. And when I go there, it's 4 or 5 counties. It's Okeechobee, it's Indian River, it's Martin, sometimes Palm Beach. And I look in the room, and it's all, and I think you've been maybe once or twice, but it's predominantly one color. So I say that because I could go to another couple of boards that I sit on too. So my question is why are we just pulling up Children's Services Council then? I mean, I'm just trying, because I didn't know what we were really talking about today. I came here and I'm just processing it, and you talked about looking at the boards, but I would think that this Florida School Board Association board would be just as important as the other boards, because this one sets guidelines and policy and directs money towards our area for children. So, I mean,
And I think they've changed, you know, I've been.
I don't know. I haven't been. I
Yeah,
haven't been
and
on it in 4
I go
years.
every year. And they have a lot more minorities on their boards now.
Just the local one, though.
Oh, no, I'm talking about FSBA.
No, I'm
The
talking about the local
now,
one that
now,
we're elected
okay,
to.
and you mentioned local, you mentioned why are we zooming in on CSC? So I want to say it again, because sometimes you have to say it over and over. Why? Why I'm zooming on this organization is because I have, first of all, I have a lot of experience with this organization, a lot of exposure to not just this organization, but the organizations they fund. And as a school board member, I understand that 2/3 of our children are minorities. And educating the whole child means you need to show them that you're willing to do the right thing for them to be willing to do the right thing. And that is for them to be able to see representation on the boards. If it would have been you, if it would have been Jack, it's not, we're not targeting Miss Harley at all. And this is where the trust needs to be built as a school board, because there's been times when I felt like I was seriously targeted. There's been things that have gone on that I can be totally mistrustful right now. That's just me calling it out like you were calling it out, Miss Jennifer. And I appreciate that you said it right there, the master school board, master training, she was not there. That concerned you. So I think we have to have these times when we just say it, just talk it, and you know, and just really be that team and really be that family and really be the people that want to grow and want to move forward in what we're doing. And so I appreciate talks like this, because I'm listening, I'm hearing, you know, and it can make me a better person if I do what I believe is the right thing, whatever that is that you believe is the right thing. If your heart is in the right place, it will help us move forward to be in that master school board, which I really would love for us to be. And I think I know we're heading that way, but like I always say, there's room for improvement. And the moment that we say we're there, we've lost it.
Make it clear again that I absolutely know this young lady has the passion. I know she's intelligent. I know that. And she's going to be a great school board member. We missed you from being at that. I think that would have been so advantageous for you to be at the master board, just what Don is saying right now. That's all. And it weighs heavily on the experience and the good judgment that I talked about. That's all. But I think you guys are the best, man. I still like being here. I wish I could run again for 4 more years, but I can't. But I'm going to enjoy these 4 years and just have good judgment. And Donna, I'm going to just lay this out, okay? I don't blame, the minority thing. I understand what you're saying, but, the state, and I blame the state a lot, and Mr. Gent knows that. The state runs the whole school thing, which I don't like. Up north, each city, each county had their own school board. It's done differently. Isn't that right, Molly? One of the few states that run the entire, just about everything that we do, it goes to the state. 5 people, 5 people every year or every 4 years, whatever, come from the state, and they couldn't put one minority on. I mean, half of that board every term, and they couldn't. I don't know if that's true. I understand it is, and we only have that one that we can put on. So I'm going to lay the blame for that, a lot of it, on the state for not being fair with that type of thing. So we can't put it all on us. But I'm still for the continuity, but I have no problem with rotating, ma'am.
Okay.
And I'll be quiet.
Okay, so.
I do want to say something. Jackie talked and made me forget what I was going to say. I think it's, Dr. Mills, I hear what you're coming from, but I think it's injustice that my personal feeling is that we should allow Ms. Hawley just to go ahead and finish out her year and then go ahead and let her do her 2 years. And I know it's going to be at the discretion of the chairman, so I mean, I understand that too. But at the same time, you're talking about an organization, and we really didn't touch this for the community's sake, but that $12 million, how much of it goes to children in need?
Oh, but as a person who have traveled with this organization for those 30-plus years that they've been here, a lot of it goes right out there to the
I would say
communities that need
almost
it.
100%.
Yes.
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 And most of that goes to children in lower income families, African-American, Hispanic. They go to infants and babies and childcare. So we're not talking about money that's not getting used the correct way. We're talking about people that have been elected that know our community, and I felt like Ms. Hawley has done that for us, and so that's where I'm feeling. So I don't even know who's on the board. You're talking about seeing people on the board. All I know is the two people on the board of Children's Services Council.
I'm talking about the agencies that see them all the time, that knows
Oh,
exactly
okay.
the people that's getting
Because
funded.
I thought you're saying the children.
people
I'm
that's
like,
getting
I don't even know
funded,
who the
and they-
children,
yeah, yeah.
would see. I don't
No.
I've never heard that.
Well, the children also see different events. I mean, we do, it's the adults that's concerned for their children, because like Jack said, and I think you mentioned about the babies and so, children cannot help themselves. We adults, we're the ones that's training and raising and teaching and educating that child. And so we're the ones that mold the child, not the child. So the child doesn't have to really see it at certain stages, but if they see it, it puts an imprint in their minds that people who look like them are up there, serving. When I go to different schools and I say to them, I'm the first Black female ever to serve in St. Lucie County, the kids just applaud. It's automatically applaud. Every single time, no matter what age that those children are. So that is the educating the child in all ways. And I hear what you're saying. I think it's just seeing out of different eyes. I'm seeing out of a set of eyes that minorities see and
I
have
just didn't
seen
know
for
the board was
years.
that all that visual. I think that this board is a behind the scenes board kind of board. I never thought it. So that's personal.
I tried to explain to you that even if they never see a board member, even if that child never see that board member, the more people they see in certain high places, the more you educate that child to know that they too can be in those places if they see someone that looks like them. And so that's where I'm coming from. Whether the child never ever see us,
No, I can see as a school
Yeah.
board member, Dr. Gaines, yourself. I can see, the Trent Center's Rufus, Commissioner Alexander, and Reggie.
yeah, it makes a difference.
Arna
It
Games
makes a
and
big
Mr.
difference for
Johnson.
our
No,
people.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I totally understand that. And I understand the school board, and I understand the county commissioner. But Children's Services Council is one of those committees that's behind. You're just looking at the finances, and you're making sure that the policies and procedures go right. So, that's just my
I tried to
experience.
explain what I was trying to
No,
explain.
I know.
But
I hear you,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
just, like I said,
Okay.
said from my point of view of, that it's a paper shuffling.
All right, at this time, I think it's time. Okay, go ahead.
Let me move this right here where I can be heard. So a couple of things. We think globally and we act locally. So all of this, we think, people don't, and people and people and people, but like Dr. Mill says, who is it affecting? It's affecting us locally. This is about being local, you know? Our kids see, the parent sees, the community sees, the board sees, the director sees, locally. It's about localization, you know? So we have to act, and uh, Dr. Mill says we have 2/3 of our kids are, and we have the community that are of a different ethnic persuasion. They're not white, So we have to start thinking a different way so that we can empower our children for success. And we can't, the, some of the things we are doing is not working. They're not getting it. So we have to do it some other ways and think outside the box. And if it means putting people in these places that they can see and that they can aspire, that's one way. That's one way. And so that's what we need to do. I was here on the way here this morning, I was watching something on whatever, on my phone, and it was about this Black woman who was named some big thing in England. She was the first Black woman to ever get this award. But you know what? She's Jamaican. And I'm watching that, I'm thinking, wow, I was so inspired. I was like so proud. I was like, wow, if she can do it, my child can do it. All these kids that I passed when we were walking at the Martin Luther King Day parade, and I'm looking at all of these kids, they can do it too, So it's about, just putting a different spin and put up another picture so that they can see. It's about, children live what they see. My daddy used to say to me, do as I say. But if, 9 out of 10 times I did what daddy did, not what daddy said. So we need to kind of look outside of our own little box, and look at our kids and how are we going to inspire and empower a certain sector of our children that needs that. That's that passion. Okay, the other thing I want to say is, Madam Chair, before we close out, is that Jennifer Richardson did not attend the Master Board training because Jennifer Richardson was ill. I was in the hospital. Okay, there are some times that I was actually in the hospital when you all were doing the Master Board training. That's why I didn't come to the training. It's not because I didn't want to. When I got on this board and I was told about this Master Board training, I was so excited about being at this training. And I was very, how can I say? I wanted so badly to be at this training. So that is why Jennifer Richardson was not at this training, not because she didn't want to be at the training, it's because she could not be at the training. I made an effort to be on the training virtually, and that was shot down by the board. So therefore then, I could not, even the first meeting, and I knew I was not going to be there because I had only just gotten out of the hospital, okay? I tried to do that, at least make an attempt to be there. And subsequently, things happened that I could not be there. The very last Master Board training, I went to my doctor's appointment. I came to the last Master Board training with my tag on to show you that I actually was at a doctor's appointment. So it's not because I did not want to be there. Let the record show, please. It's because I could not be at the Master Board training. However, April, who was your Master Board trainer, went over the program with me And I think I got the key points. And I think that one of the things that I learned in the master board training was about trust, was about trusting. I think was one of the key theme of the master board training, and so I just really want to go on record to say that that was why Jennifer Richardson was not at the training. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jennifer, for
Madam Chair.
clarifying that.
Jennifer, I don't want you to get me wrong or the board wrong. Nobody's questioning why you weren't there. It's just that if you were, it's the information that was there and the intermingling with everyone, talking about our favorite movies, it was, and you missed that. And it's an experience that you had a chance to get that you didn't get, that's all. It's not, we understand, and I knew darn well that you had problems, I got problems. I got to go in and get my neck done next month. I got a pain in the neck. A lot of people say it's Troy, but it really is a medical thing. But,
Again, thank you, Mr. Kelly, for that. But I didn't want any misinformation to go out. I wanted our community to understand that it wasn't because I did not, it's because I could not. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Jennifer, for clarifying that. I will entertain a motion at this time to approve a procedure change regarding committee assignments to ensure a 2-year rotation. Can I get somebody? Yes.
Just a question for the attorney, since this, is this the appropriate place for that to occur because it's a workshop and that hasn't, that wasn't advertised? Can the board take formal action like that at a workshop? And I don't have any, I'm just saying, as a procedural point, is that allowable?
We did. Oh, yeah, we.
It should be on.
I think what you're saying, Wayne, is we did not put that in the announcement that we would do a vote on it.
Just trying to make sure it's legal.
Yeah, I get it.
Thank you, chair, members of the board, and superintendent. I would agree that the workshop should be for discussion purposes, and then if you want to have just kind of a discussion on what's the consensus of the board without taking, a formal vote on how you want to direct the superintendent. Do you want to direct the superintendent to look at changing policy or procedure on this, and then he can bring something back to you, maybe at a workshop for further discussion first, or to a board meeting for an action where you would, vote on something.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. That does bring my memory back to how we've done certain things before. Thank you for clarifying that. So at this time, I think we just, usually what we do is we just say, ask for like a thumbs up, I guess, on if we want to move forward with this for a vote to be put on. I don't think we need to do any more discussion. I think on this right now, we've done a lot of discussion here. So I want to be able to bring before the board now. My suggestion is I'm asking the board if you are willing, or who is willing to do a rotation, a 2-year rotation, if someone else would like to serve on a board. And do I get some thumbs up here? So we know that. Okay.
Wait, let me ask, would the 4-year rotation still be up to the board? I mean, if the board wanted to do it at that time. I mean, it would, I naturally probably would be.
I would definitely, since there was just 2 that were in agreement with, the next thing I would ask is, would we be up to be willing to approve something like this on our agenda with not 2 years, but 4 years?
So my point, Dr. Mills, is that if you did a 4-year rotation and it comes up and somebody says, we want to appoint Troy Ingersoll or Mrs. Richardson to the Children's Services Council or the TPO, whatever, the board still has to agree. The 5 of us would have to vote or nominate someone else. You're saying no? You're saying that we want to automatically change it? Do you want to make it mandatory that we change?
Yes, currently.
You want to make it, you want to make it
sir.
mandatory that we change every 4 years?
Yes. Well, no, if someone else wants to serve on that board and they're qualified, You know, we're not,
Right,
we
and
don't, yeah, I think
Thank
that's
thank you,
important.
you listened to me, thank you.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay,
I
so
mean, that would be my second
then I don't
suggestion.
see any difference from what we do right now. Molly?
Because, well, currently, right now, Jack, what we're doing right now is it's totally up to the chairman's discretion of who serves on what committees. If they don't want a person to serve on a particular committee, on that November meeting, in that November meeting, they could make that clear and change. That's the procedure now, which I don't like that procedure, because what that brings is you got people that just continue to, the current procedure, continue to vote or continue to agree. And then even if they don't agree, we don't have any authority as the rest of the board right now when it comes to committee assignments.
Well, then I have
Except
to-
for the chairperson.
Then I have to go to Molly, because Molly, the way, on the other
Okay.
boards that I've been on, city council, all TPO, all the other boards, the chairman did not appoint. What the mayor could say, I want Mrs. Holly to be vice mayor, and the rest of the board would have to approve that. They'd have to vote on it. Isn't that the way we do it, or am I been misled for a year? Talk about mistakes, Jennifer, I could be making a mistake here, you know? Which way is it?
Thank you, Chairwoman, members of the board, Superintendent. The Chairwoman is correct. We have a policy. It is policy 2.21 that says that the chairperson shall preside at all school board meetings, appoint committees, and perform such other duties as may be prescribed by law or action of the school board. That's just that one sentence. There's nothing else in the policy about it. And I have not found, and I've asked Chris Harrison as well, I do not believe we have any procedures. So something you could do is to change your policy, or you could, if you wanted to, have procedures in place. Something that I would say is that this is a bit unusual. I represent some districts that use Neola, and I think about half the districts in the state use Neola. So a lot of districts, the way they do it, their policy is 0153 appointees, and it says that at the organizational meeting, the school board will reach a consensus in the selection of members as may be necessary to the various organizations, committees, and/or councils as may be required by law, board policy, or as desired by the board. Board members shall discuss the need or necessity for board members to participate in various organizations, committees, and/or councils as may be required by law, board policy, or as desired by the board, and determine the appropriate representation.
And so that's why you thought that we should vote on it
Yes,
at November's meeting, because you were going by what others do, that Jack said that's how it's been done in his circle for all this time. But that's not the way we've been doing it
So
here.
it is
Correct.
not a consensus. It is an appointment. What you just read, the other school boards do. They do a consensus, but we don't.
That is
Then, Madam Chair, we need a policy change. That's just my thought. We need a policy
I
change.
think that would
It should
help.
always be a consensus.
Mhm.
It's a board. It's a board of 5 of us. We change chairman almost every year, and it's a consensus. So I think we need a policy. I'm only one member. We need a policy change, because I was under the impression, because it just, whoever we appointed, Debbie or you,
Our attorney was
I
at that time
agreed
in
with them.
November
Also, we
as
never
well.
had to do a consensus, but I thought that's the way it was going. See, Jennifer, you learn something new every day. Every other board I'm on, the board has a consensus on an appointment. And I think we need to do that too. And if most other school boards do that, that's probably the right way. So I don't know.
So do we have a thumbs up? How many thumbs up do we have on a policy change that would give the board a consensus on it, as well as an expectation that as board members, we will do what we need to do with committees that need the proper representation?
Again, a point of order, that would probably, if we did do that, we'd have to do that at a regular meeting, wouldn't we? We couldn't do that today,
No,
or can we?
no, because it hasn't been advertised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman, members of the board. So as I was saying before, I think right now you can just kind of gather a consensus without
Consensus.
voting on it, and the consensus would be Do we want to direct the superintendent to direct staff to prepare a policy change for your consideration at a future board meeting? So it would just kind of be setting the wheels in motion on how you want to direct staff to proceed, and it would be brought back if you take action on something like a policy change at a regular board meeting.
Okay, okay. Do we have a consensus on that? Thumbs up.
Not sure what we're, because you added to what Molly had read from the other boards using. Do you want a consensus on having it as a consensus item?
Can't hear
A
you.
consensus item, or do we want to direct staff to look at a policy that our attorney read?
I'm asking the board to give the thumbs up on proceeding with that policy change that was just mentioned that most boards do, right? Where there's a consensus of the board and when it's time for committee committee members to be assigned. I am also asking the board to give a consensus on if it is that we start this procedure that states that if we see the need, for example, this need here, even to say now today, a consensus on, I couldn't get the 2 years, but the 4 years of somebody being assigned to a board for 4 years. And if we have a problem, right now I have a problem with how we are putting board members in CSC. I want to change there. So I'm asking the board to do a 4-year, if not a 2-year, because you in 4 years, you have to get off in a year anyway after that. But even if they change that and say, oh, no, now we because they can change their policies at any time too. They just did after one of our board members left. So I like to have that policy in place with us that after 4 years serving, that someone else gets that opportunity if they want that opportunity to serve on that particular committee.
Point of order, you're talking about two separate things here.
I am.
The first one I'm talking about is exactly what Debbie's saying, is that if the chair makes an appointment, that appointment should be a consensus of the whole board, which we don't do right now. Right, Molly? We're not doing that. Our
Right.
board isn't, but
No.
most boards, or every board I've been on, okay? So what you were asking, Debbie says, I was supporting asking staff to bring us back a policy of that. So when
Right,
when
right.
we meet every 4 years and or 2 years, whatever it is, we make appointments.
We
that the
meet
consent-
every year,
that-
every
that-
year.
That every year, when the chair makes an appointment, that there's a consensus of the board, a majority consensus on that appointment, which I thought we were doing.
No, I
That's
could
what I'm
have-
talking about right now.
I could have actually said at the November meeting,
Yes,
I could have said, I'm taking Ms. Holly off and I'm putting Ms. Jennifer on, as it stands now, and you guys would have had no say-so with that.
yeah,
I did what I believe was the right thing and not do that.
yeah.
Even though I really have this concern about a decade of nobody minority on children's service.
And I'll be
council.
frank with you, I understand that now. I didn't at that time. And what I want now is to take that power away
Yeah,
from the chairman and leave it with a consensus.
got that.
Like every board I was on. I
And
just
we had 3 of us that
reiterating.
gave the thumbs up,
And-
so we
and-
got that
And to
part.
go above board that, if we do that, then there's no need to do the second part of what you're saying.
Well, there is, because it depends. A board member could just say, well, 3 of you can just say in 4 years, well, we just want Debbie Holly back on for another 4 years. We just think she's the person,
That-
and
that-
she's the person for the
that's right.
job. We could do that. And you can have board members that go that way, because it went that way a few times in the past, where I felt chairmanship should be, something else. And then we had board members that was thinking different ways, and I think, it came up that, well, it was supposed to be Troy's time to be chair, But what actually took place was Troy gave up his chairmanship 3 times to let someone else do the chairmanship, and it's okay, his chairmanship. But the rotation has been, from the time I've come on this board, the procedure has been the next person who's vice chair becomes chairman. But that skipped me when I was vice chair. So see, that's what I'm saying. If you want my trust, you got to build my trust too. Not just expect me to build your, to trust you. I gotta know you're trustworthy. So if the procedure has always been the vice chair takes the next position as chair, and then all of a sudden my time come up, and it's like, well, no, because I think someone else should be chairman for another year. You change the way you do things. That doesn't build trust with me. It makes me start thinking I'm a target of some type. So we have to be able, if we're going to build this trust and really build this family and be able to really depend and trust on each other, Mr. Gent, he's going to be gone after this year. We all have we have 3 people that's up to run again. The board could change completely. Another 2 or 1 person could be gone. So if we don't put this in place, when that time comes, it's just like consensus time. 3 votes. It's going to go the way it's always went, and that is wrong. That is just wrong. And we should not allow that to continue as a board, even after we're gone. The only way we could do that is put that in place.
That's well said. I understand that. You understand, Mr. Ingersoll, what we're talking about here. So we would take that power away, and I didn't see you putting your thumbs up, and I was very surprised. So I think it should be democratic, and it should always be the consensus of the board on every appointment. That's what we're talking about here, sure.
And so
And
we
it's
did
just to
get-
bring the board back, not to do it today.
And maybe the 2 of you just need, maybe you'll feel differently later on, but as long as I've been on that board, when you got 3 that's given consensus to it, we could just move on, and hopefully no one backs down or changes their mind at that time. But we've already went there. What I'm at now, and I don't want to keep going back there because we've already got the consensus on that one. I want to know, is there a consensus to ensure, even after we're gone, it's no definite thing that I'm going to be here after November. Even after I'm gone, I'd like to know that we have something in place that says, if a committee needs to have a minority on that committee, a qualified minority on that committee, not just anybody, put anybody on there, but that minority is qualified and they're serving on this board, it's a consensus already in place with the policy that needs to fall into place. Do we have a consensus on that? Give me a thumbs up.
Mr. Mills, maybe it's good we're having this big discussion here, but I agreed with the first part. What you just said now, if somebody needs to have a minority on it, I'll give you a great example. We have Will Armstead as the head of our Boys and Girls Club. He's not the head of our Boys and Girls Club because he's black. He's the head because he's great. He was the perfect guy for the job. And I think if somebody said that to him, he might take it a little, well, you're the head of the Boys and Girls because you're black. No, he isn't. He's the best person we could have to head that board up.
But
And
here's the thing. You say he's the best one. Now I know he's the executive director.
he's the most qualified.
He's the one he's like Wayne when it comes to the Boys and Girls Club. He's that
Yes.
supervisor. I get that. I'm not talking about the supervisor. I'm talking about a board. I'm talking about board of directors. And I'm talking about making sure that we have what our children need to see on those boards and our community need to see on those boards. So I'm talking about having at least one representation and not finding ourselves 10 years down the road in the same place because we did nothing about it.
Right now you're talking about 2 different things, because right now we're talking about a policy change for something that if I was 14 years ago, I would have said, yes, I would have voted for it, but I got railroaded. I got railroaded 3 times. I got railroaded by Carol and I got railroaded by Catherine twice. And I appreciate them railroading me because I did not know what I was doing at the time.
Okay, now
So-
you're going back many years. You're going back through the years.
I'm
that
going
you've
back
been
14 years ago, 15 years ago, and I appreciate their wisdom as chairmen and, or as chairwomen, that they didn't put me on certain committees. Now, I had 3 votes. I had Judy that would have voted for me, John that would have voted for me to put me on committees, and it would have been a disservice to the community, and it would have been a disservice to myself and my educational experiences to be on some of the committees that they would have put me
Me
on.
as a chairman, this is my 3rd time.
Uh-huh.
I did well. I did very well.
No, you did excellent.
And what I'm saying now is if you're going to put something like that out, let's be very clear.
Mhm.
I did a fantastic job as chairman. So when you started putting someone else after every year as chairman, that took away from, how do you think I felt? When I knew I could do the same exact job. Now, you might not have believed I could do it.
No, I believe you could.
But
And I
I-
nominated you this
yeah.
time. I just believe that during the
Well,
middle of
that's
a
'cause I'm-
pandemic, that we
Okay.
shouldn't have changed.
All right.
That was my fault.
At this point in time, I could tell where this is going. So I'm just going to let it go right now.
That's fine.
But this is the point that I'm making. Clearly, if we're going to be a master board, we need to all have trust in one another.
Yes,
And we need to do things the way we always done it. We don't need to change and say, okay, well, I still have this position, so I'm kind of really giving my position up because I still have this position 3 years later after you put somebody else in your rotation. So I'm just saying, when if we're going to rotate something, let's rotate it, especially when we know somebody's qualified to be the next one. Let's not play that game that causes mistrust in how people do things, and then it's okay for them to do it, and then it's not okay when you see it and you call it out, and it's a whole different story. You cannot get my trust that way. And that's the point that I'm saying. And I tell you, you can get my trust, but do right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I done preached my sermon. All right, so I'm just going to say thumbs up. If you don't want a thumbs up on this second part, then you don't want a thumbs up. So if I already called it and it was just 2 of us so far that went through, all right, okay. All right, board, we're going to go right into the next discussion.
I don't understand what just happened. I didn't hear you. Were you asking for a consensus again?
A consensus on the
And then
second,
to bring back,
part.
on a consensus, like Debbie said, to bring back a policy where the consensus is the board has to be on every appointment.
Yeah, that's what you recommended.
Yes.
And you got our 2 consensus. You got 2 more consensus there, so you got what you wanted.
Yeah,
Okay? I didn't get what I
I
wanted right
support
now.
bringing back a policy from the board.
I did
on-
not get what I wanted. You got what you wanted, so that's clear. Okay? Now,
Okay.
superintendent is about to, we're going to move on.
Let's, 1 second. So I got to make sure I got this clear. So what I just heard, we talked about the Neola policy, the Neola.
Hold on a second, Mr. Superintendent.
We have they are ordered, they will have a button on them, it'll all work out. It's just it's on the boat in Los Angeles, okay? The new mics. All right, so what I heard, we talked about the Neola policy that talks about a consensus for committee assignments. That's kind of, I don't know, Molly, you want to explain what Neola is, just for the board, because I know it's a new term for some and for others it's not.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman, members of the board, Superintendent. So first of all, I'm just going to throw out there that, and I think I mentioned this during my interview process, that my firm does work for Neola. So in that regard, there's a bit of a conflict of interest. Like, for example, if you decided you wanted to hire Neola, I could represent you in a contract that you entered into them with them, but you both would have to sign, statements saying that you understand that I represent, both companies, do work for both companies legally. So I'm just saying that, just so you know, I liked Neola before I worked for this firm that did work for them.
Explain what Neola is.
But Neola is a company, they are in several states. In the state of Florida, they represent, I want to say about half of the school boards, and they create policies, the entire policy manual for school districts. And they have a team of lawyers, so they make sure that everything is legally compliant with Florida statutes. And the thing that I like most about them is that every legislative session, they carefully go through the legislation and they update your policies. So that way you're always making sure, right now you have your board attorney, I believe your in-house attorney does it. They update the policies to comply with legislation, but that's, a lot of work. And so, it's kind of more efficient for a lot of districts to just hire this company that they can do that for them. And that makes sure that as long as they're keeping up with those updates, that they're always legally compliant. They'll change policies to, best practices, it's not always just to keep up with the law. And they also give you options. So for example, if something's not prescribed by law, it will say, sometimes in policies, do you want option A or option B? So there is not just a one size fits all, where you can make decisions. You're allowed to kind of personalize the policies to your district. You don't have to go with the Neola policies. So in that way, you know what I mean? You always can. If you want something different in your district, put something different in there. And I'm pretty familiar with them because I represent Hendry County, I represent Indian River County. They both use Neola. I think that I've talked with your in-house counsel, Barbara Sadaka, and she mentioned that she liked Neola. So I don't know if that's a conversation, where she was thinking of maybe bringing it to the board at some time.
Attorney Shandow, did she answer your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to do that for the board. So what we'll do is, at another workshop, we'll talk more about that because it may be a direction we want to go in to help staff. So when she was talking about what the Neola was. So I want to make sure I'm clear then on the consensus of the board was to draw up, to look at a policy regarding committee assignments only with a consensus of the board for appointment to that committee. Is that what I'm hearing? Was that?
That's what he's saying.
Okay.
No, yeah.
All right, so there's consensus to go forward, to look at that, then to bring back something to the board regarding that, and then go from there through that process.
Yes,
Okay, that's the only thing I'm looking at.
that's the only thing at this time.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. All right.
Are you okay with that? I didn't
I'm
get.
not okay with.
You're not okay? I
I'm
thought
not
you
okay
were in
with
the
the second.
beginning.
I'm okay with what he said. Yes, I'm okay with that. I said you got what you wanted. You got two other consensus, so I'm okay with it. I'm one that did this right here. It's the other part of what I was talking about that we did not get the consensus for. I'm not okay with, but it's the consensus. It's how it goes. So it's okay. Then I just have to accept it. Okay. So
Rotating basis, it's just
they
as
didn't,
a
we didn't get the
consensus.
consensus on a
Okay, all right,
rotation
just making sure.
basis. It's
Okay.
kind of like when we get at the time that next year and the year after that and the year after that, it won't, the rotation basis is not there. So that never got the
Just
thumbs
asking,
up.
yeah.
That's a separate thing now we're talking.
No,
Okay.
what just took place is that now every November, every committee is up for a vote. For consensus now.
Yeah, unless we pull something, yeah, but we could do a vote, a whole vote unless, and then ask is there
So
anyone.
every November, you have to have consensus for Children's Services Council, FSBA,
Right,
CPO.
right, but
So-
we do that like we do the other part of the agenda, where
So-
we ask for
so what I'm saying
discussion, so
is-
somebody can pull it out for separate vote if there is a committee.
You did get your way because now you're not on for 2 years. Now you're on only for a year, and the board, whoever encompasses the board, can change it regardless of who the chairman
If it's
is.
3 votes,
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that somebody can say whatever they want to say, but if it's 3 votes, if 3 people understand that's not the right thing to do, okay? That is why I have a problem with not the consensus of the second one. Y'all keep going back to the first one. We did our consensus on that, but I have a problem with the second one because you still can have people there that feel like, well, we just want this individual to just stay and, and even though we see that we can make a change here, we're just not going to make a change here unless we put something else in to say, we want this change to be a procedure, right? You understand what I'm saying, attorney? And we could do that. You see, the attorney said we could do that.
It could still, it could perpetuate.
Right, like okay, say nobody pulls out your committee. Nobody says, I want to talk about this before we actually take the vote. I want to discuss this. If nobody says they want to pull out, we move on. So what I'm saying is, at a board meeting, you get your motion, and you get your second, and then you ask for, is there any items, any committees you want to pull out for separate vote or discussion? Then it would only be those committees like we do now that would be pulled out to discuss. If somebody felt like, well, okay, I think that this committee right here does not have what we feel is fair on that committee in regards to having a minority. Like I used the example of CSC. And then say why. In the end, maybe still the 3 votes are still those 3 votes say, no, we just want to do it. We just want to do it the way, whatever we want to do. Then that's not, we don't have that in writing that that's one of our practices that we will make. And I have a problem that we don't have that in writing because we could be gone. You said you're not going to rerun next term.
Right.
You be gone, somebody else will be in your place.
Right.
If we don't have that in place, that's a new person that never heard that.
Right.
If 2 of us is gone, there's 2 people that have never heard that. It's not in writing. It's not in place. So where are we going? We're not going anywhere in that area. So let's, maybe we need to continue this discussion another time. People think about it and maybe we'll come to consensus like I would like to, so that it's in place in writing that this is a practice that we do. That's all I'm asking, that it's a practice that every 2 years or every 4 years, this is our practice. This is what we do. We look at these boards to make sure that we have the right people on that board. And if the right person is on our board that can serve on that board, I want it in place that we say our practice is that we'll put that person on that board if it needs to be there.
But I think you did get pretty much what you wanted. It's just interpretation.
I'd like to move on from this
Okay.
because we can talk about this forever. As chair, I'm going to take the authority
you
and
probably
say,
could.
let's move on from this.
And you well know that another board 4 years from now could change this whole policy too.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been changed. The one that we have now, it's been in place for a long time. So at least we have a chance that so, okay. All right, so I wanted to mention Mr. Gent's retirement, that we will be meeting on Thursday, special board meeting, to discuss what path we want to take as a board. Whether we might want to do a search, we might want to do in-house. I've heard from a lot of people already about this. I mean, the day that you put your letter out, I got calls all day, okay, as the chair. So some people want us to do it one way, some people want us to do it the other way. Most people want it a certain way, but I don't want to get into discussion at this meeting about it. But we will come together and we will decide as a board how do we want to go about getting our next superintendent of schools. Okay? And that will be this Thursday, I believe at, 11 o'clock? Because it was changed a few times, 11 o'clock. Okay. And we'll meet right here in the boardroom. And then, go ahead.
Thursday. That delay seems long when you're waiting for it, doesn't it? I haven't seen the agenda, but is there opportunity for public comment at that meeting?
Should there be, attorney?
Thank you, Chairwoman, members of the board. I could look at your policy more closely, but my understanding is that I believe you do allow for public comment at special meetings. I can check your policy right now just to make sure that I'm correct on
It's
that.
been noticed, so I don't know why you couldn't allow public comment, but that's up to
Are we
you all.
able, Attorney, to limit, since it's a special meeting about a specific purpose, are we able to limit the comments at that meeting that they would have to pertain solely to the superintendent's retirement and/or our progression from there?
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. I believe that you can. I'm going to look at your policy right now to see what it says on special meetings and board participation. I believe so, but I'm going to double check
I'd
for
just
you.
like to make that suggestion that if it's our policy that that's public comment would be
Well, let's find
limited
out if it's our
to that.
policy while we give her a chance to look that up. And we will go into another area, ethics. Superintendent mentioned that, we all have had the ethics training. And if there's anything that someone wants to talk about in regards to doing a little work on how people come into a board meeting, what we expect, what we don't, what we will not accept. As Ms. Hawley mentioned, that our attorney is looking up now. She suggested having a limitation on how many people speak at a board meeting on Thursday. It's been noticed. You've noticed it, so it's not like we're going out and broadcasting it at this time. We hope that, a lot of people could end up showing up, but if it's not broadcast, it is noticed. If they don't see it, we may not have, because this is just the beginning of us trying to make a
My
decision.
concern was that comments, I wasn't saying restrict the number, I was saying restrict the subject, that this special meeting is about the superintendent's retirement and our subsequent search for his replacement. So comments should be limited to that subject,
Oh.
is what
I
I'm
see what you're
saying.
It's a special meeting, yeah, for that purpose. I would do that anyway, so I get what you're saying. Okay. So did anyone want to mention anything about anything they saw at a board meeting they think that we might need to do differently or have a certain rules and policies in place that, for example, someone becomes very unruly or they will not listen to the chairman at that time, or the, staff. I think we had something with, I think with you, Debbie, we had someone who, when you were cheering over the COVID and they were over in the corner there and they were refusing to put a mask on at the time when we made mask mandates. And it was like a confusion on what do we do with this person? Well, we should have known what to do with that person immediately, have them escorted out. But there was a confusion. Should we just let them, rebel against what we had set in place and just let them sit there? And then everybody else is looking like, well, should we have done that? And I know the superintendent, you spoke up real quick and said, remove her, and she was removed. So we do know, or the sign that showed up with me, with my picture a zillion times on it, is that something we allow somebody to come in and do, or, what do we do in those cases?
What I'd like to recommend, maybe because this meeting has been so lengthy, is that the board members have a copy of the board meeting policy, maybe review that, and then come back, we can come back in February, and if there's tweaks or whatever you want to do, you can do it at that time as opposed to now, and then you've got a month to look at it, and, because I know different board members have different
Good
issues that are
suggestion.
here,
Mhm.
and then you can, you got a month to digest it.
I agree, Mr. Gent, with that. Attorney Shaddock, do you have anything you want to share with us?
Thank you, Chairwoman, members of the board. I'm looking at your policy right now, 2.22, on board meetings. And you do, separate your meetings into regular, special, and emergency. I'm not seeing anything on here with regard to public participation that specifically separates how you handle the meeting. So it looks like it's the same for the different types of meetings. So then an unscheduled speaker could be there to address an item on the meeting agenda or a subject matter not on the agenda. That's just what I've read so far, so I can read it more thoroughly to see, you know what I mean, if I missed
Yes,
something,
and so
but
we're going to continue this conversation
looks
at
like.
another work session, as the superintendent suggested, so you'll have time to kind of look at that, and we have time that we can talk about, you know, what we want in that area, because we have been here a long time in our discussion. So thank you so much, Attorney. And at this time, we are, let's see, do we have any other items? I don't think so. Nope, it's time to adjourn. Special work session meeting has been adjourned.